President Trump did not mince words when he proclaimed that Barack Obama had committed treason. Take a listen to this.
From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper. The whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room. Right here, this was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up that came out of the vaults. They were there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they... Look, he's guilty. It's not a question. You know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it.
In no uncertain terms, President Donald Trump says that Barack Obama is guilty, that he was the ringleader, that he was the boss who manufactured so-called intelligence, fake news, weaponized it via the intelligence community to falsely accuse President Trump of being a puppet of Vladimir Putin. And they used that to try to subvert the duly elected president for whom you cast your ballot. Now, Barack Obama doesn't weigh into politics super often. He does sometimes, usually on social justice type issues. Whenever there's a Black Lives Matter issue that comes to light, you'll hear from Barry. But former President Obama had a long response to President Trump, and this is what he said. He said, and I quote, "Out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office," this was released, by the way, through his spokesperson, Patrick, "our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. But these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee led by then Chairman Marco Rubio." End quote. Widely accepted, Mr. President. It was widely accepted, Barack, because you, as commander-in-chief, told all of the people in your administration and the media, who does whatever you tell them to accept it. But do you know what I noticed about this response from President Obama? Did he ever say any of these allegations were false? He never actually denied it. Listen, the first thing that you do if you're falsely accused is you say, that is false. That is categorically false. That is not true. It's human nature. I remember after Brett Kavanaugh was falsely accused of sexual assault, and he goes before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he gives this passionate, emotional defense of himself, of his character. And he used words that didn't sound like they were written by a speechwriter. They were just from his gut. "I did not do this. I would never do this. It's false," he said. And it resonated with the American people because we know that when you're falsely accused of doing something, your reaction is visceral. You immediately deny it. You say, "That is false. That is not true. That is a lie. I would never do that." Barack Obama didn't deny it. He said the allegations are ridiculous, a weak attempt at distraction. Is it false, President Obama? Is it false? Well, Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, announced today at a press conference at the White House that she has made a criminal referral to the Department of Justice that implicates Barack Obama. Take a listen.
Thank you. And Director Gabbard, this one is for you. Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
A journalist then asked Tulsi Gabbard, do you think Obama is guilty of treason? And this was her response. Take a listen.
Based on what you now see, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason?
I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I'm not an attorney, but as I've said previously, when you look at the intent behind creating a fake manufactured intelligence document that directly contradicts multiple assessments that were created by the intelligence community, the expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to...
Well, there you go, Attorney General Bondi. Sounds to me like you have your marching orders from the Director of National Intelligence and from the President of the United States. Sounds to me like you've been given your direction. In response, the Department of Justice has announced that they've created a strike force. This is the official press release from the DOJ. It says today, the Department of Justice announced the formation of a strike force to assess the evidence publicized by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and investigate potential next legal steps which might stem from DNI Gabbard's disclosures. This department takes alleged weaponization of the intelligence community with the utmost seriousness. Upon the formation of the strike force, Attorney General Pamela Bondi stated, quote, the Department of Justice is proud to work with my friend, Director Gabbard, and we are grateful for her partnership in delivering accountability for the American people. We will investigate these troubling disclosures fully and leave no stone unturned to deliver justice. End quote. Well, I certainly hope that's true. Because what did you and I vote for when we cast our vote for President Trump? We voted for justice. And justice doesn't just mean the exposure of corruption. That's an important part. That's the beginning. That's the first step. And it takes courage and it takes diligence. And mad kudos to Tulsi Gabbard for these revelations, for putting together this case to the American people in this short of an amount of time in the Trump administration. But it is but the first step. Real justice means accountability. Real justice means identifying the people who committed the crimes and indicting them for those crimes, arresting them and putting them on trial for those crimes. And now, as I said yesterday, this is actually Attorney General Pam Bondi's big test. Is she going to indict these people for some piddly little perjury charges? Just a slap on the wrist? Or is she going to exact justice for the American people? Well, make no mistake, President Trump's base is watching. We're hopeful. We encourage Attorney General Pam Bondi to do the right thing. We think she can do the right thing, but we want to see charges like treason and seditious conspiracy and grand conspiracy and deprivation of rights under the color of law, weaponization of the government against the people. There are a lot of people right now who are saying, I'm not an attorney, because they don't want to name the particular statutes that these individuals ought to be charged under. And I think that's a mistake. You don't have to be a licensed attorney to look at the elements of these various crimes and understand how the evidence that Tulsi Gabbard has released fits the elements of these particular crimes. You can look at an effort, a conspiracy to defraud the government using false information. And again, deprivation of rights under the color of law. And you can match that with the conspiracy that we've known about for a decade that Tulsi Gabbard has confirmed with internal documents from the Department of Justice and from the intelligence communities, I should say. We should start saying the names of these statutes, the names of these laws, the names of these crimes, and not simply saying, well, I'm not an attorney, so I can't speak to the exact statute under which these criminal statute under which these criminals ought to be charged. You know, just like I know, what charges these individuals ought to face, and it ain't perjury.